Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. I do want to apologise that this video is a day or two late from the usual upload time. Usually we upload our videos on Sunday, but I've just finished a 72-hour work week. So I'm a bit messed up, I'm a bit dazed, and yeah, this video is a day or two late. But don't worry, this video is still going to talk about interesting techniques that you can incorporate into your own street photography to make you a better photographer. If you watched my last video, I was in Amsterdam, which was a brand new city that I never ventured into before, and I was doing 72 hours of street photography in there. If you haven't watched it, you can click in one of the corners to watch it now if you want to, and then you can come back here, because this video is sort of an indirect follow-on. I'm going to be talking about how I get so comfortable in new locations taking photos when I don't know the culture very well, and it could be completely different, but I'm still comfortable and still feel at home taking street photography images. And yeah, I want you guys to feel that way too, because I know some people stick to what they know and stick to places they know because they don't know how people are in other locations and other cultures, and they get a bit scared and a bit more reserved and don't take the same photos that they do when they're at home. So yeah, we kind of want to make you all comfortable in taking photography anywhere you are around the world. So this whole video is really going to come down to planning being the whole main focus of it. But one of the main things you need to plan and one of the main things you need to take into account is the laws of street photography. Yes, it is a law that, you know, people have the rights to not have their photos taken of them. And in many locations, including London, the rights to the image and whoever is in the image in that specific photo comes to the person that takes the image. So me, for example, as a photographer, I can take a photo with 6 different people in it, and I have the rights to that entire image and everything inside of it. In places like France and a few others I can't remember, the actual people inside the image have the rights to themselves inside of the image. So they can quite easily at any point in time say, that's me in that photo, I want it gone, you have no leg to stand on. Whereas in different locations like London, you do have that, well, I took the photo years ago, this has been up for this amount of time, the rights belong to me on this image. If I went to Paris and took a photo and then 2 years down the line someone was like, no, that's me and I don't want it there, I have to abide by that. It's an actual law, you can look this up. But yeah, it's just something that you've got to look out on. It's just a quick Google search, read up on it, anywhere you're going. It takes 5 minutes. It's very important to do because that instantly makes you feel more comfortable that if someone does confront you in that very rare circumstance that it happens, you know your rights and you know what you have to do before anything. So now we can talk about culture and the locations themselves. So everywhere has a different culture, even if they're in the same continent. I'm not talking about Asia and European cultures. I'm talking about London and Manchester. Each of those have different cultures. France and Spain, right next to each other, have completely different cultures. And that's something that you've got to be aware of as well. For the most part, if you're going to a major city, Barcelona, Paris, Porto, Lisbon, London, all of those places, Athens, Rome, you're all going to get very similar experiences with your street photography. You're not really going to have many people come up to you and go, why are you taking a photo of me? Because it's a very touristic city. They see it all the time as a local, and most people are tourists themselves. For example, in Amsterdam, there are more tourists and non-Dutch people than there are Dutch people. So you've got those people understanding that it's a very visited city. They know that plenty of people are tourists and the photos they're taking are for personal and tourist purposes. Even if you are taking a picture through a window at a weird angle at 11 o'clock at night, waiting for someone to walk past, it happens, you know, people ain't gonna care. In Amsterdam, I didn't get a single person look at me funny or anything for the image. In fact, if I was looking at someone, I had people wait or duck out of the image so I could still get the clear frame. In London, that doesn't really happen. Everyone's in their own world, don't care if you're taking a photo, don't even realise you're having a camera. And in other places I've been to, Athens for example, people are friendly. People ask you, can I see that photo? After they notice you take it, they like it, they're all happy, you can have a little conversation about it. In cities it's very much like that. I've noticed that when you go away from the cities, that's where you have a bit more of a curiosity before you're actually taking the picture. Even in England, if I was to go an hour outside of London into the sticks, and I'm shooting in a rural small town, and I'm taking a picture with a subject coming towards me, they might look at me funny, they might give a look to the camera, or might ask me after why I took the photo, purely because they don't see it as much. This is what you got to be aware of. People that aren't used to people around them all the time are going to notice things more. And if you're purely taking a photo of them, especially if you want them to be the primary focus and the primary subject of the image, they're going to notice that. So what I tend to do, in cities it's not so big of a deal. I can go close up or get a wide angle shot of the scenery and the subject for scale, or get really close up to the subject and have a bit of texture and difference to that. In rural areas I stick to the wider shots, just to respect people's privacy more than anything. Most people are friendly enough to be like, yeah, that's cool, but especially if you want to get candid photography, people notice you a lot more and either strike a pose or do something you don't want to do or don't want them to do in the image in rural areas. So I stick to the wider shots, use the background, the landscape, and have the person for the scale, just give a bit of human element to the image that way. And another thing relating to culture, learn the culture of the places you're going, There's nothing worse, and this is my personal opinion, so take it with a grain of salt, than those very typical, the English are the worst for it, going to new locations, not bothering to say please, thank you, or learn the basics of a different language, and, walking around like they own the place, like it's their own country, and not understanding, some places might be religious or sacred, or, this might be a quiet residential area and they're boisterousing it up. Learning that is also very important, not just for photography, but just in general as travel, because you wouldn't like it if someone was walking down your street at 1 o'clock in the morning when you're trying to sleep because they've just come out the pub screaming and shouting. And then for photography's point of view, learning the active hours is also a great thing. For example, Athens was a very lax city when I was there. People weren't out and about until about 10:30 in the morning, but they were out until really late. Whereas other cities like Amsterdam and London, people were active all throughout the day. And that's a good thing to know, especially with your photography, because then you can plan where you're going to be and what you're going to try and photograph and what you're expecting to get in your images. For example, if I'm in Athens and it's at 9 o'clock in the morning and I know people aren't really active until 10:30, and can easily find an isolated subject against a wider background than if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and there's more people out, I might be able to fill the frame with different subjects. Something that you can think of that way by knowing active hours, but the main reason I learn all of that is to just be a bit respectful, but it does really help when it comes to photography, knowing what to expect in those images at those times. And then the last thing for culture as a topic really is cultural events. They happen all the time. Different places, different times in the year have different events going on. And if you happen to be there at that time, not only does it make an interesting image, but you can get a lay of the land on what the locals are like as well. And it's quite fun to get involved in those different things. Chinese New Year in London is always a big event. St. Paddy's Day in Ireland, King's Day in the Netherlands. All of those things, really important events throughout the year. And you always get big events going on. Great for imagery, great for getting involved in local events, great for learning the culture as a whole. Really good to get involved in. Do a bit of research, do a Google while you're in a location, what's going on and can I get involved in them easily. And now we can move on to planning, the really, really important topic. Now I suppose learning the culture is a bit of planning, but planning your route, going onto Google Maps, finding different locations in the area you're staying that are either landmarks or different areas that are like your typical niche. You can go into Street View and look at different areas. That's what I've done for the upcoming holidays this year that you're about to see on this channel. That's what I did for Amsterdam. Finding different streets that you might be like, that's up my street. If the light's good and coming from this angle, I can get a photo with someone coming this way. Plan it all out. Imagine the image in your head before you take it. And finding landmarks and stuff like that and planning your route around those will give you a nice walk to do. You can learn the landscape, you can actually have a holiday and see all these things, and really enjoy your time in the city, especially if you haven't got many days in the location. Amsterdam was 3 days. I saw it all. I didn't think that I needed another day. We even spent a day outside of Amsterdam going around the tulips and all of that because, again, a cultural thing. It's just something that you got to do because, yes, you're going to a new location to travel, but you're also going to get good photographs and you want to combine that. And you don't want to let the photographs rule your holiday, but you don't want to let your holiday stop you from getting good photographs. And on top of planning, you're also going to want to look at a good few weather apps. I don't have one weather app on my phone, I don't have two, I have four, just because they all lie, they all tell you different things. And on the build up to where you're going, and even while you're out there, you need to keep a constant eye on it because weather can change. In Amsterdam, and I use it as a prime example because I was there last week, you really need to keep an eye on the weather there. Imagine it changes more frequently than in England. We had sun, rain, cloud, thunderstorms, all of that in one day. It's crazy. But hey ho, that's, you've just got to plan for that and expect that. And for that, I recommend knowing outdoor locations, but also indoor locations where you can get photographs, whether that be an indoor market or a museum that you can walk around for a couple hours. If the weather turns and you don't want to photograph in it, go somewhere inside where you can also make the most of your time there, but still get good photographs. The Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, we spent 3-4 hours in there, and I got a really good couple of images that I really like. And same for different outdoor locations. When we spent a lot of time indoors, we wanted to venture outside. We needed to keep that variation, and we needed to learn the weather because we didn't want to be outside in the rain all day because it wasn't warm. So venturing inside, you can keep the photos going and you can keep yourself mixing it up a bit, keeping it interesting. And if Google isn't throwing up the right results for you when it comes to planning, you can always watch a YouTube video. I watched a few travel vlogs of Amsterdam to get the lay of the land before I went there, and if you're looking to go there yourself, well, there's a video on this channel now, so look no further. And get subscribed because there's plenty more travel videos to come where I spend time in other locations like Italy and Belgium later in the year. So yeah, you do want to get subscribed because these videos are great, aren't they? You want to stay up to date with these. And if you're going into a lot of places, remember these things are going to be holidays as well as photo walks. So if you want to go into different locations, have a look at what needs to be booked in advance and what doesn't. It'll save time if you can skip the queue because you've already got a ticket, and you'll be spending more time walking around to places that you want to take photos rather than queuing for half an hour taking photos in the line. You don't want to be doing that because boring images, not boring images. You want to just get through the boring stuff as quick as possible to get the interesting shots, right? So if you can skip past 200 people in a line because you've got a ticket already pre-booked on your phone, do that. 100%. Do that anywhere. And even if it costs a couple of quid more to pre-book, 100% recommend it. That's how we were able to fit all that we did in 3 days because we pre-booked most of our stuff. And we were able to plan out our day, if we couldn't pre-book stuff, on what would take the most time, when we could fit that in, when it was en route, and when was the best time to go to that location. So when you're planning, look at the times it'll take you in each spot. So it usually tells you on their website, especially in museums, how long it'll take you to get around. You want to know that, and then whether you can book in advance. If you can, do so 100% of the time. If you can't, look on Google at how long the lines usually are. Usually TikTok's pretty good for this. I don't rate TikTok that much at all, but if you can get on TikTok or any of those short form videos, they usually tell you what you need to know really quickly. So if you want to go to a location but it's got a massive queue or it's really busy all the time and you don't want it busy, then you can find the times to do that. The Louvre in Paris is a perfect example. If you want the Louvre to yourself, crack of dawn, get up, get there. There's archways that show the pyramid and the Louvre framed perfectly, and it's like the dream street photography image. It's very overdone, but it's a dream image. I want to get it completely empty. extremely difficult to do, but I know that if I can get there at 5 in the morning, I can do that better than getting there any later than 7. So that's already planned for when I go to Paris. It's all those sorts of things, you know. You see it, you remember it, note it down if you have to, know what times to go, know what times are best for you, whether you want a busy image, whether you want a quiet image, know the timings, pre-book, all that stuff. It will help you, I promise. And then in addition to time, make the most of it. Now, you're not going to be in these new locations all the time, not compared to your home city anyway. You might be back once a year, you might never be back. So make the most of your time and get up early, stay out late, enjoy your time, and most importantly, and this is probably the most important thing I'll ever tell you, get a good pair of shoes, alright? There's nothing worse than walking around all day with your feet killing you. I spend more money on shoes than I do on my entire outfit because I think that's the most important. I'll get a comfortable t-shirt that's usually plain and doesn't have anything on it. I'll get a pair of jeans and I'll get a £200 pair of shoes because I know that they're comfortable. They're usually running shoes or walking shoes. They're not, you know, fashion brands or anything like that. I know they're built to last. And that's the most important thing. Make the most of your time, but make sure you're comfortable doing it. In Prague, for example, last year, I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning for sunrise in the middle of August and got back to the hotel, I think it was about 11:30. That was a full day of walking. We did about 50,000 steps and my feet weren't fatigued because I had a good pair of shoes, but I certainly made the most of it. And I got some portfolio-worthy shots in that trip and in that day, which you can see on my website, and you can also see it printed in my zine, which I still have copies available. If you want to buy it, link in the description. It's the best tenner you'll ever spend, promise you. Anyway, that is basically it for this video. To get comfortable, you need to learn the location before you go. Learning it and having an idea on what you're getting into is just the priority, because you'll feel at home before you're actually there. And that's the best way to go about it. Plan it. Have a military operation, if you will. You know, I want to be here by this time. I want to be doing that by this time. It really does work. And the more you do it, the more in that routine you'll be, and even more comfortable. And then for actual physical comfort, comfortable clothes, good pair of shoes. And learn the culture. Because we all want to not have boisterous English blokes walking around the pubs at 1 o'clock in the morning because they've had one too many and disturbing the locals. That's just not on. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to go get some sleep. I'll see you next week for another video. Bye-bye.